Welcome to Come to the Brink. I'm Zoe Flowers, and this is a space for those of us navigating profound life changes like loss, trauma, caregiving, and transformation. It's about what happens when everything you thought was solid crumbles beneath you and you're forced to rebuild. If you've ever felt like you're standing on the brink, this is the space for you. Welcome. Welcome to Come to the Brink. I'm Zoe Flowers, and this is a space for those of us navigating profound life changes like loss, trauma, caregiving, and transformation. It's about what happens when everything you thought was solid crumbles beneath you and you're forced to rebuild. If you've ever felt like you're standing on the brink, this is the space for you. Welcome. Welcome to Come to the Brink. I'm Zoe Flowers, and this is a space for those of us navigating profound life changes like loss, trauma, caregiving, and transformation. It's about what happens when everything you thought was solid crumbles beneath you and you're forced to rebuild. If you've ever felt like you're standing on the brink, this is the space for you. Welcome. Renewing the created fire. So now let us imagine that we have everything all together. We're clear about our intentions. We are not drowning in escapist fantasy. We are integrated and our creative life flourishes. We need one more attribute. We need to know what to do, not if, but when we lose focus. That is, when we wear down for a time. What? After all this work, we might lose our focus? Yes, it will only be lost temporarily, but it is in the natural order. Here is a fine tale about it that in our family is called the 3 gold hairs. There's a saying in our family that story has wings. Via trans-ocean migrations by my Magyar foster family, a number of the stories I carry flew over the Carpathian Mountains with them. Flew over the Carpathian Mountains with them when they fled their villages during the wars. There they lodged for a time in the Urals, thence sailing over an ocean to North America. The little ragged band and their stories, shaped by their experiences, then traveled overland down through the great forest to the Great Lakes Basin. The little core of the 3 gold hairs was given to me by my Tante Kata, a gifted healer and powerful prayer maker who grew up in Eastern Europe, and I have amplified that kernel here. In my research, I've spotted quite different Teutonic and Celtic stories that revolve around the leitmotif of golden hair. The leitmotif or kernel of a story represents an archetypal juncture in the psyche. That is the nature of archetypes. They deposit some nuance of themselves at the point of contact with psyche. As symbolic representations, they sometimes leave behind an evidence. Wending their way into the life stories, dreams, and ideas of every mortal, dwelling who knows where. The archetypes constitute, one might say, a set of psyche instructions that traverse time and space and enwisen each new generation. The theme of this story is how one regains focus once one has lost it. Focus is composed of sensing, hearing, and following the directions of the soul voice. Many women are quite good at focusing, but when they lose touch with it, they become scattered like a feather bed burst all over the countryside. It is important to have a container for all that we sense and hear from the wild nature. For some women, it is their journals, where they keep track of every feather that flies by. For others, it is the creative art. They dance it, paint it, and make it into a script. Remember Baba Yaga? She has a big pot. She moves through the sky in a cauldron that is actually a pestle and mortar. In other words, she has a container in which to put things. She has a way of thinking, a way of moving from one place to another that is contained. Yes, containment is the solution to the problem of all loss of energy. That and one more thing, let us see. So, as always, we open by reading Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And as usual, it's a perfect introduction to our conversation. So, welcome, welcome back to Come to the Brink with Zoe Flowers. I am Zoe Flowers. And on today's show, we're diving deep into the realities of caregiving and the complex grief that comes from losing loved ones in more ways than one. My guest today is a dynamic and compassionate Sherri Pullum, an award-winning storyteller, artist, producer, and wellness coach who courageously uses her art and advocacy to foster healing, self-awareness, and resilience. Sherri knows intimately the profound challenges of caring for an ailing parent. Her beloved mother experienced a debilitating stroke. Her father passed when she was young and when her mother was young, and her father as well. And simultaneously navigating the painful breakdown of a nearly 30-year marriage. Sherri and I have also written together and traveled around the country together, so we know each other very, very well. So this is going to be a great conversation. So Sherri, welcome to the brink. You made it to the brink.
Oh my God, I'm so woo, victory. I made it to the brink. First of all, Zoe, let me just say thank you. I just want to start in gratitude and thank you for the work that you're doing because this is so important. It really is. So thank you for the healing work that we've done together for many, many years. And now you're expanding that to this journey of healing through grief and loss and everything in between. So I just want to say I'm so proud of you, my sister,
Yeah.
my soul sister. Yeah,
Mhm.
I was not going to, I'm a fan of yours too.
Ah,
So
thank you. Thank you. So let's just start at the beginning for folks that don't know you. What were your early years like and what shaped you as a little Sherri?
said little Sherry. Well, I will say that as a little Sherry, I was always creative, always talkative for sure. Always knew I was born an actor, but like many of us, I had this terrible fear of rejection. And I certainly, little Sherry was definitely a people pleaser. And sometimes Big Sherry gets that way too. But I know, I'm self aware enough now to know that does not serve me. But I also had, a happy childhood, but it was also filled with trauma too, right? I grew up in an alcoholic household. And, that was something that was be quiet, kept secret, all of that. But I think through my art, and I share that because I think when I I really was able to own fully my art, I think that's when I really started to get to know myself better, to be more vulnerable and allow people to see that um, side of myself. Um, so I would definitely say that that young little Sherry is still inside of me in so many ways. Uh, and she still has some healing work
Mm.
that I'm doing with my little Sherry. I call her Sherry baby. My grandmother used to always call me Sherry.
Mm.
So I call my little Sherry Sherry baby.
And were you creative in plays and writing and dancing? What was your creative outlet like then?
So I also love to dance. So I think it was one of my natural gifts was to dance. And I danced for a bit. And then my mom and dad really couldn't afford dance lessons, formal dance lessons. So, we're from Connecticut. So Artist Collective was just this wonderful place to go when we could finally get back into dance. So I was a little bit older by then and, dance all the way really kind of through college. I also have always been a writer.
Yeah.
So writing, poetry. I think even when I was younger, journaling, even though we didn't call it journaling, but writing. I certainly wrote even letters, and some of them were sent to people, some of them weren't. Creating stories. I love to read. I love to be in the mirror pretending I was acting on a show, doing commercial work.
Yeah.
But secret. So, no, to answer your question, I wasn't in any plays, but I knew I was an actor, on the inside. But I was, again, I think it's just that fear of rejection. I was really afraid um, for people to, I guess, not like me or not accept me
Mm.
um, at that time. But always creative. And the other thing is, I used to draw.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know whether I still can. I've shared some of my drawings with you before, but
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
think you can still draw.
I probably can if I
Yeah.
really
So
let that come through again. I guess they
yeah.
say sometimes if you don't use it, right? I think I just need to practice and use the muscle again.
Yeah.
So I feel like my creativity and my art, like I've always felt as a child, even that my art was going to be something, or my creativity would be something that I would use uh, as part of my purpose, as part of what I do.
Mm. Do you feel like so for me, also growing up in a home where there was alcoholism and lots of volatility and
Yeah.
things like that, um, yeah, movies definitely was my escape, escaping into
Oh, movies.
the
Yeah.
dream of Hollywood. I can look back now as an adult and say that was escape. It was an escape. Do you feel like writing and things like that, do you feel like it was an escape for you, or do you just feel like it was something that you loved?
I think probably it was a little bit of both, really.
Mhm.
I think part of it could have been an escape. I love to watch television.
Mhm.
Sometimes with, we had family nights, so a lot of times we'd watch with our family. But then let's face it, the TV didn't stay. We didn't have the content we have
No,
now.
absolutely not.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think the other thing is I also loved creating community. Being with friends. I loved being outside. I was
Mm.
a fisher girl, really. I really loved to be. My dad loved to fish, and so did I. So that was another outlet, I think. I mean, I wouldn't do it now, but I would be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, digging night crawlers,
Oh,
you
wow.
know. No, I mean, I was serious. Yeah.
Wow.
And my dad loved, loved, loved the outdoors. He was a farmer.
Yeah.
So he loved to fish. So when we were younger, because my mother worked at night, my dad was really the one taking care of us. So sometimes that could turn into a slippery slope.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Especially with somebody who's an alcoholic. So I think for my mom, even too, I think there's a lot of normalizing, a lot of denial, a lot of secrecy. Uh, and then I think as a child, you're just trying to figure it out, and
Yeah.
you're trying to figure out where do you fit in.
Yeah.
And I think some of that, for me anyway, I felt like my role was to be the fixer,
Yeah, for sure.
to make sure, and especially with my dad, to try to, and the other thing of just trying to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, if you, this is my son walking by, uh, to try to fix a problem that you think maybe you are part of the problem,
Yeah.
especially when someone kind of tells you you are.
I was gonna say, where do you think the fear of rejection came from, and how and why? I was just about to say, why do you think that you would think that you were the problem?
Yeah, I think because, when people are not well, and obviously, alcoholism is a disease, and if people are not emotionally well, physically well, mentally well, um, they're angry, and hurt people hurt. And whether it's intentional or unintentional, um, it's like, I wouldn't do this if it weren't for you. If you could keep the house clean, if you would do this, if you would do that. So
Mhm.
we definitely grew up in like the better homes and garden, you know, cleaning. I was the type like dusting every drop off the chandelier crystals, so I'm sure that's probably where that type A personality for me, that perfectionism, that drive to be perfect. I think probably that's the underlying part of that.
Mhm.
Um, but for me, I think it's so interesting too. I was listening to your guest, L,
LJ.
uh, LJ. Thank you, LJ. And one of the things she talked about was her grandmother, and her grandmother saying, "You're such a good listener with me," and it struck me. And I thought of my dad and me sitting with him, and he'd say, "You're the only one who understands me."
Mm,
And so I think when you think that you can make a difference in someone's life
mm,
and that you could almost be I didn't have words for it then,
mhm,
but you could almost be the therapist. You could almost be kind of the healer
mm.
for someone that you had deep empathy for. Even though he made me very angry, as I got older, we definitely sort of had our arguments and because we were also a lot alike too. Uh, but it's such a mixed bag of emotion.
It
Because
is.
because he was also a sweet soul with a huge, huge challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think folks drink something, we hydrate over here.
Oh, listen, let me get my little water. I'm gonna hydrate right now too.
Um, that generation, they just didn't have the tools, right? Because on the one hand, it's like, oh, great. Like daddy or mommy says I'm the only one that understands them. And on the other hand, like that is a huge burden to put on a child, like on a young person, no matter what the age, you're still like the child. And I was still the child. And so many times being put in like these adult situations. Um, at very young ages. They just didn't understand, like, how damaging that could be.
No, they didn't understand, especially emotionally, how
Yeah.
damaging it can be. I think my mom, as she went through her journey, and
Mm,
I'm sure we'll talk about that, as she went through her own mental health issues and her
mm,
own struggles, um, she really did turn her scars into stars, and she
yeah.
really started to understand, like, wow, I was really trusting someone still. And I knew we talked about this a little offline, right? How did I know something is wrong here.
Mm,
But I'm still trusting this person to take care of the kids when I probably know that wasn't the best thing. You know what I mean? In the
yeah,
moment or
yeah,
am driving, I can think of times where, we were on the
course.
road and people stopped us and
Yeah,
they look, "Hey man, you got kids in the back," and all of it. So, and we talked about it. My mom and I had a wonderful relationship, thank goodness. And we were able to really work through and talk about and unpack a lot of that.
yeah,
So I'm grateful for that, really.
yeah. Yeah, I also think that's, like, so generational, like, I remember being crouched in the back seat after
Oh,
coming home from a party, them, like, throwing who knows how many back, and I would just be laying down in the back seat, like,
yeah.
very young
And you didn't
too.
have to have a seatbelt on
Oh
either.
god, no, of course not, and of course the windows were rolled up and they were smoking too, like, it's just
Yeah, no, my parents weren't smokers, so I didn't
well,
have
that's
that.
good,
Yeah, they
that's
weren't
good.
smokers. Yeah, and my mother she was not a drinker at all.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
At
No,
least
she
yeah.
wasn't a drinker at all. But so I guess as you asked, that little Sherry, she was a dreamer and still is. Uh, and I think just took on a lot of responsibility
Yeah,
that really wasn't hers to own.
a lot of emotional, spiritual responsibilities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
And then when you were in your 20s, your dad passed, and do you feel like that was, like, your first real bout with grief? Like, what's your relationship to, like, the first time you really felt grief?
That would be when my dad passed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That because though my dad, he was, complicated. for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, people are complicated. Let's
Yes,
face it. Human
absolutely.
beings, we're all I'm complicated. We're all
Absolutely. We're
complicated.
all complex. Yeah.
We're all complex.
Yeah.
Um, so he was like larger than life to me, right? When we were kids too, because he was also with little kids. He was so much fun, taught us to play
Mm.
checkers. Again, we fished all the time and played horsey, and he could outrun us backwards with us running forward.
Mhm.
So we spent a lot of time together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time with my mom too. I
Yeah.
mean, she would come fishing with us, but she'd be in her little lawn chair, reading
Okay.
her newspaper,
Okay.
fighting the shade.
Okay.
Right. So my dad for me was really larger than life. And,
Yeah.
you just think I wrote a poem actually called Daddy's Little Girl. You're so strong. You're so fast. You're the best dad in the world. Swinging from your muscles, soaring through the air. No cares, no worries. My spirit truly free. You singing in the kitchen, making piping hot biscuits, pork smothered gravy and grits. The scent still lingers. Yeah, I remember. I'll always be your little girl.
Mm.
Oh, girl, I did not think I was going to be reciting that.
I love it. It's beautiful.
It just came out a piece of it, but that. So when he transitioned, first of all, I didn't think he would. I didn't because he had been on the brink before. He had, you know, he had faced death many times. Even before he got married, he had this major surgery. His intestines were now on the opposite side of the human body, what our body is. Uh, and it was like one of the first surgeries they did in the United States on him. And this was before he was married. And I think that's when my mom knew, like, oh, I really do love him because everyone thought he was going to die. His mother and father came. And he was very intuitive as well, and he said, "Send my mom in," and no one had told him she was there, but he knew it. Uh, so he was on the break many times, and that was before I was born, so I just heard of that story. But after that, and also he, uh, what do you call it? He was, what do you call somebody who's accident prone?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if it wasn't falling off a ladder, bleach falling in his
Oh
eyes,
God.
doing things. He also was really great with his hands, so sawing and almost sawing the thumb off. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. Well, and then not to mention the fact, right?
Yeah.
Now you're also a drinker, you're also
Yeah.
an alcoholic. So, you're behind a wheel. He
Yeah.
finally lost his license, but so you flipped cars over. I mean, so there was just so
Wow.
much,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So he just seemed invincible. And yet he was also really in good shape.
Okay.
So when we found out that he had cancer, and we didn't even know, but we started to see he looked really ill. He looked sick.
Okay.
It's not until I went back and saw pictures of him later on. You know how sometimes when you're present and you're with it and
Yeah.
in it,
For sure.
you see it, but then when you look at a
Yeah.
picture, I look at the pictures now,
Yeah.
I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
wow. I
Yeah.
mean, really, really, he had aged probably, 20 years,
Yeah.
was so much thinner. We just didn't, you know, we didn't realize at that time, but I say how strong he was because he rode his bike
Wow.
like, to the store and back a mile away. I mean, up hills.
Wow.
That's how, and
Wow.
even uh, with him being an alcoholic, he basically had esophageal cancer.
Okay.
So he basically burned his throat out from drinking.
Okay.
But his liver was in good shape, his kidneys, I mean, all of it. He was, other than that, he was a really healthy person. So I share that long I know it's kind of long-winded answering that question, but I guess just exploring the depths of grief at that time for me, that was
Yeah.
really, for
Yeah.
me, kind of just really being a cross between denial,
Right.
and then I ran away from it, you know, and my mother kind of immediately felt the grief. He was diagnosed in July, he was gone by November,
Yeah.
and the cancer did not, uh, kill him, it was really he died of a staph infection,
Right.
and he said, "I will make it through the surgery just fine, but I will not live much longer after that," and he did not.
And how long when did he say that? Like, when he was in the hospital?
He did, he was, on his way pretty much to surgery, and it's interesting too, because I
Right.
remember when my dad repainted our family house.
Yeah.
And he said to my mom, "This is the last time I'm gonna paint it. Let your next husband do it." And because he was also such a
Wow.
someone who had also a great sense of humor, you know, um, and you just think it's
You don't
kidding,
take
but
that seriously?
no, no, no. But
No,
he was very intuitive. He definitely
obviously.
had so much. Maybe that's where I get that from as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So much foresight,
Yeah.
so much rich vision. Um,
Well,
so I think for me, that was really the first time, and I would say for my mom too, that was the first time she experienced grief of that magnitude. Her mom and dad, like she said, I mean, her mom and dad were still living. She was spoiled. My father spoiled her also in many ways, even though it was difficult. I mean, she definitely went through some challenging times,
but they were
but
young too, right? Like, she was quite young when
she was young. Yeah, she was. I mean, he died. She was maybe 50. I think she might have been 52. That's young to lose your husband, right?
yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah. Wow.
I just think for all of us, so then when you look at that, how do you support one another
Yeah.
when you're all, as a family unit,
Yeah.
when you're all grieving in your own way and you're all experiencing grief in this magnitude at the same time. So the way I was handling it was kind of once he did die, once he did transition, I really was running away and I threw myself into work. Well, you still know that about me, Zoe. You had to bring me back
Mhm.
from a couple of moments
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
with work,
Yeah.
and needing to process and feel. So where my mother really emotionally was going through that grieving process pretty much immediately when she found out he had cancer. But again, at first I started in denial.
Yeah.
Uh, and my sister and I'll never forget, we went to the hospital and they said, this is the last moment. Get to the hospital quickly. He's not going to make
From
it.
a staph infection.
Yeah, from a staph infection. And so we went to the hospital. And I think I still can remember my sister and I walking in, holding hands. You know how the doors open so slowly, you press the button to the ICU. She was on one side of him and he couldn't talk because he was intubated. He was on one side, I was on the other. His hands were up like this. And we just both begged him not to leave this planet. And of course, whatever, April was, "I'm so sorry for any grief." And I'm like, "I'm sorry too." And, we just poured our hearts out and he couldn't talk, but I know if he could talk, he was probably say, "Can you put my arms down?" That's-
You were whole.
we were holding one hand. I mean, and I was like, "Dad, I'm not married. You have to live to see your grandkids. I don't have my children yet." And then April, she had children, 3 beautiful girls, and she's like, "And you've gotta live to see them grow up." So it was all of that. So then we realized The very next day, thank goodness he was still alive. And we went back and we apologized and we told him it's okay. It's okay for you to let go whenever you're ready. Um, and what I will say that brings me comfort, and I hope anyone listening to this, maybe it'll bring them comfort too, because I really do believe that souls, when they're here,
Yeah.
they know. They know.
Yeah.
So when they said my dad was going to not make it, he lived. In fact, he lived for probably another week or two because my brother was
Mhm.
going to come and visit. And it was near Thanksgiving. And we said, Dad, Michael's coming to visit. We, stay, all of that. So I'll never forget this either. So when we were in the hospital, they said, Oh, looks like your dad's going to make it. We're going to make plans now to take that tube out of his throat. It's like I said, it was intubated. And they said, we're going to make plans to give him a trach.
Okay.
Now, my dad, he said he would never want to live like that. And I can just remember him looking around the room. He had like hazel green eyes and they were so clear. And literally he looked like 20 years was like off of his life. He looked so young and peaceful. And he just looked at each of us. And for the first time, we didn't go to the hospital the next day early. We actually decided to not go so early in the morning and go a little bit later. And he died. He transitioned then. But when I look back, I know he was looking at us and making peace and he was saying goodbye. We didn't know it at the time, but I am grateful that he had that opportunity and he knew. So when the doctor said he's going to not live, he lived. And
Yeah.
we said, he's going to make it. Let's make plans. He said, I don't want to live like that. And he transitioned on.
Yeah. Yeah. They know. They know for sure.
They know. Girl, that's why I had to bring my little Kleenex. You see?
Bring your Kleenex.
Yes.
Bring your Kleenex to the Come to the Brink podcast.
Come to the brink.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So you said you threw yourself into work. What did that look like? And how soon?
Oh, immediately. I mean, I don't think I ever saw, you know what I mean? I mean, the more projects I could do, the more things I could do, the more, work I could do. Uh, I also started, I'm not, the play that I started working on was Why
Mm,
Not Me?
yeah.
Um, this one woman show that I not put up on its feet or produced, but you and I remember we did a writer's workshop together and I sort of got the piece in at least a little bit better shape. But I know one thing that my mom was on board with that piece, and
Mhm.
it centered around my dad and really alcoholism and family and what that really looks like in a family to have addiction in your family and what that disease looks like and what it does to not only the alcoholic but also to the family members and to the extended family members and community at large. So
Yeah.
it's really, Zoe, the work that we do, and we've done so much of it, is using art as healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I just think for me, it was just how fast could I run? As a matter of fact, I went to a therapist because I knew I needed counseling. And I went, but I actually kind of got fired by my therapist. And when I say fired, I don't mean that in a negative way. She didn't really fire me, but she did let me go.
Mm.
And she said, "You're not ready. You're not ready because I wasn't committed to my own healing." So when you ask what did that look like, it was canceling appointments.
Oh.
I'm working. I
Mm.
don't have time, or I was trying to help my mom
Mm.
or my sister or, whatever else, whatever that looked like, it wasn't Sherry and taking a deep dive into my own process and journey of healing.
How long did it take you to face his passing? Like, how long did it take you to confront that grief? Did you hit a wall? Did you not deal with it?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know if I have a definitive answer for that. You know, I think grief is one of those things, it's in stages though too, right?
Mhm, mhm,
So there's all kinds of stages for grief.
mhm.
Um, and I don't know really. I'm not really sure when I actually felt like um maybe I'm still processing some things from his loss, from that loss. And But I would say really though, with probably like he died in 91. Mhm. And so I think really, I want to say really me diving into my acting career
Mhm.
is what really helped me to start the healing process and to begin to be honest a- about my life, my childhood, more about I was. Uh, so I feel like in so many ways art has, in my prayer life, my faith, certainly for me. Uh, but I would definitely say I think really it's that journey of starting. And then of course I started my journey into having my own family.
Mhm.
I got married and all of that. So and having kids and so
How soon after did your father's passing did you get married?
uh so he died in 91 and I got engaged in 94
Okay.
and then we got married in 96.
So a good minute.
Yeah, no, it took yeah, it was a good
Yeah.
minute. And my mom, I mean, that's she also went through during that time too. So my mom went through her, as we called it, her breakthrough.
Look,
Uh, and so the focus really shifted to her because she really, basically, as people call it now, a nervous breakdown. And I didn't know what that looked like until you always heard that, right? Even the whispers of, "Ooh, such and such had a nervous breakdown." Uh, I witnessed it with my mom
yeah.
from the loss of not only her mom, talk about grief and loss. I mean, not only her husband, but in a very short span of time, it was her husband, then her mother, her father, her brother, her sister, her uncle, her grandmother, and she was their caregiver until their demise.
One right after the other.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Um, and then my grandmom was the last to transition, and she took such good care of her mom. Uh, so her brain really just couldn't handle anymore. She couldn't do anymore.
Yeah.
And she had to be medicated. And that's just a whole nother coming back from the brink of mental illness
Yeah.
and really being, my sister and I, April, being there for my mom and making sure that you're her advocate. Uh, and because, at the end of the day, doctors and institutions
Yeah.
and, they don't always have your loved ones'
That's right.
full well-being
That's right.
uh, in mind.
That's right. Yeah.
We'll have a deeper conversation about that another time. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think too, when you're asking that, which I hadn't thought about really in that way, in terms of how long it took me, I think because the focus went to my mom too.
So it's almost like, yeah, did you have a chance to grieve? Because then now it's like whiplash, mom, whiplash, engagement. Now all the focus has to go into planning a grand wedding. Boom. Then chill. So it's just like all of these things. It's kind of
Yeah.
like in the
And we had our
story.
first baby. Let's see, we got married in September and we were pregnant by December because Gaia was born in October.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. I didn't really, maybe that's why I'm gonna have to really journal about that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like talking about Baba Yaga in the story, walking around with all the things in her cauldron, but it's like there were things of her choosing. And sort of now listening to your story on the outside, it's kind of like you had a whole bunch of things thrown into your cauldron, but were they of your choosing? So what I'm going to ask you is, who did you have to become to make it through all of those successions of responsibilities?
Wow, I just got goosebumps over that question. I guess Superwoman. And I've worked really hard to strip that S off my chest though now,
Mhm.
because I know that that was not to my benefit.
What did that look like? I'm not your super. Like, what did it look like living that?
To not be the Superwoman or would it?
No, to be the superwoman, so that if people
Oh,
listening, they might not know that they're in like superwoman mode. So let people know what
oh,
it looks like, so they can know.
yes.
Oh, maybe I need to take the cape off.
Yeah, maybe you need to take the cape off. Well, it looks like you trying to be everything to everyone and do everything for everyone uh and be all and to do it perfectly. Don't let me leave that out. Um and that's impossible. I mean, it's impossible to have that role because I'm human. And my mother used to say to me all the time, Sherry, your shoulders are not but so big. You're human. And to think you can be this superhuman that you can take on everything and be everything. And um, it's not true. That's just a facade.
Do you feel like that was like, because society, we get those messages from society. Do you feel like those were societal messages that you got that made you feel like that? Or do you feel like you internally felt like you had to do everything?
I think it's a little bit of both. I
Yeah.
mean, we're old enough to remember, I'm a woman. I
Oh,
fried
yeah.
eggs
Friday
and
for the
bring it home
kids. Yeah.
and, all that.
Never
Yeah, no,
let
I
you
think it's
forget
a
you're a
little,
man.
that's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And proud of it too. Proud
Yeah.
of that. I think that that was an image that I thought I was supposed to carry.
Mhm.
I think I thought I was supposed to carry that banner. Um, and I think that was an image I was trying to protect.
You think you were fearful?
Maybe, maybe, maybe I was fearful of just being me.
Mm.
Maybe it comes back to, and I think about that even now, uh, I'm doing this, uh, getting this new certification into, for coaching certification, and it's a clear beliefs uh, certification coaching. And I'm really starting to take a deep dive into all of my own beliefs, right? To be able to help other people clear their beliefs. Um, and so maybe, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's still sometimes for me, and you know this, Zoe, you've known me long enough to know I have those remnants of that perfectionism gene,
Mm.
but I'm aware of it now. I'm more self aware. I, I definitely, I think what helped me to begin to unravel in a healthy way, start to pull that thread and let that yarn ball start to unravel, is that I had my own panic attack.
Mm. The panic attack.
The panic attack.
Let's talk about the panic attack. Not us laughing at your panic attack.
Not me laughing at my panic attack. Oh my gosh. Girl, you are just leaving no stone unturned.
I You brought up the panic attack. I forgot about the panic attack.
I did. Well, you know what? Because when you were saying to help people hear this
Yeah.
and to be honest
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
um, because as that's what my mom used to say, Sherry, you could end up where I am. Is I basically what she was really trying to say to me. You know what I mean? I think because it was too much for one person.
It was too much for her.
It was too much. And though she had support, I mean, we were all, she had other friends, certainly circle of sisters, and, me and she had her children, in April, but it was still too much.
Right. And that's the thing, right? It's like, yeah, we have support. We have people that love us, but there's some things that are just too fucking hard to do.
Alone.
Exactly.
Too hard to
It's
do
just too
alone.
hard to do.
It's just too hard to do.
And, I see people just, I mean, not so much there, but, um, just putting things on Black women's shoulders, boulder after boulder after boulder after boulder. And I feel like there's a cost to saying no. I feel like there is a cost for any woman identified person to say no. It's too much. It's too heavy. I can't handle it. There's a cost. There's a social cost.
There is. There's
And
a social cost, a physical cost, an emotional cost,
mhm, yeah,
and the price is high.
yeah. And I feel like we know that on some level, and you're either like willing to pay that cost or you're not. So you just do it till you can't do it anymore. And sometimes you die.
It's true. It's true. And we are socialized that way, right? To be
Yeah,
that strong Black woman,
sure.
right? Part of that, right? That's
Yeah,
our trope. That's what we carry. I mean, like you said, we're becoming more aware of it now, but
yeah,
it's, it's still there. It's still
yeah,
prevalent.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I think for me, when I had that panic attack, first of all, I didn't even realize I was having a panic attack
Yeah.
when it came.
Yeah.
My son had been in ICU for a week. It was Hurricane Sandy. We were removed that weekend. We had gone to Connecticut, we got a moving truck. We were moving things out because we knew my mom was not going to return to her apartment. So we took her condo. So we were renting out. We were going to rent out. That was our plan, to rent out her condo
Mhm.
because she wasn't going to be able to return there. She had, as you said, a massive stroke and 3 within 9 months.
Mhm.
At any rate, Jake he was severely asthmatic at that time. He just had this terrible, terrible attack. He ended up going into the hospital. At the time, you know, it was just a lot of pressure. I was also, remember, we were working the contract
I
in Atlantic City,
remember. Yeah.
and you were working with me.
Yes. Yeah. I know.
Right. So every week we spent our time in Atlantic City, right?
Time of our lives.
It's having the time of our lives, working hard though too. We worked hard, but we
Mhm.
did have the time of our lives.
We had the time of
Listening
our
great.
lives.
We
You don't have to
did.
tell people we worked hard, okay? We were hard. Like, you don't have to lay
You're
proof
right, girl. Look,
that,
see,
like,
I just put that superwoman.
yeah, exactly. It's like you gotta
Prove
we had the time of
anything.
our lives and let people use their imagination.
Yeah, use your imagination. We did have the time of our lives.
So fun.
It was a great contract. It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
And then going to Connecticut on the weekends to
Yeah.
help clean out my mom's house. So sometimes I would stay there till 2 a.m,
Yeah.
get back on the road to New Jersey, drive back home.
Yeah.
My kids were small then, and
Yeah.
we were gymnasts, and we traveled.
Very high
Active.
achieving children.
High achieving children.
Extremely high functioning.
Extremely high functioning. Yeah.
Packed
And-
schedules,
Packed schedules, very packed.
scholars,
Yes, scholars, athletes,
athletes,
like top,
top athletes.
yes, top athletes. Yes.
Mhm.
So it was a lot. And my father-in-law was living with me at
Oh
that
my
time.
God, I forgot about that.
And and he had just gotten a place too, because he wanted to be on his own too. So it was near us. But then it was the moving. So it was also helping to pack him and move him and get him out. Then all that was happening on that weekend.
Yeah.
So this was the first time I came after Jade came home after a week in ICU, struggling for breath. And thank goodness he came home. But this is the first weekend I was like, I'm not going to go to Connecticut. But I had been, I'm not going to go to Connecticut. So I'm lying in the bed and I thought, I'll just turn on the television.
Mm.
Maybe I'll just watch TV.
Mm.
All of a sudden, Zoe, I felt like I was falling into a deep black. I can't even explain it. Suddenly I couldn't breathe. Like I couldn't catch my breath. And you know how I was like, okay, I'm going to take another deep breath. There's something. I was trying to take a deeper breath. I still couldn't catch my breath. And what's going on with me? What's happening? So I run downstairs to tell Dwayne, I can't, there's something wrong with me. Something is happening. And what do I find? He's smoking in the back of our home, thinking the smoke is just going to disappear. I'm not worth it. Okay.
I've gone into fits of fancy over smoking in the house. You already know how many fits.
Listen, I used to smoke in the house too as a smoker. I mean, we were
Oh my
smoking before my
God.
kids, well before my kids, but
No,
we didn't smoke in our house normally. And it was just such a weird, I'm like, I don't know what made him think like, oh, the smoke is good. He was in the back. You know what I mean?
don't be. They,
Yeah, then he's not thinking,
no.
thinking like, what? Now, meanwhile, I'm like
On the brink.
literally on the brink. Okay. And I'm feeling like I don't even know I can't even breathe, but it just got worse.
Yeah.
Not just because of that. It was just because of everything.
Yeah.
I literally found myself screaming out the door
Yeah.
and saying, I'm dying.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally had the door open
Yeah.
and I thought about
Sherri.
I did. You know how dramatic I am. But I'm really not that dramatic type to like run to the hospital. No, I'm not a person going to the hospital.
Okay, that's true. That's me.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm
Yeah. I like to keep up my physicals and all that, but I'm not somebody that's just running.
no, yeah, but you really thought I'm dying. I mean, panic attacks are actually, we're laughing, but they're quite serious. Like this, it's really.
No, this one was serious.
They're and they're so scary.
And it was scary. And it was finally my spirit said, "You're having a panic attack."
Mhm.
And that's when I finally started doing more research. And I had already done research because of my mom.
Sure.
But and I had a wellness practices and
Yeah.
journaling and all that kind of thing because of as an actor, we kind of have that mind, body, spirit connection, and wellness practices and rituals that we do. But I clearly
Yeah, that stuff goes out the window.
no, I needed much more support than that. So that's when I really started taking my own deep dive, really, really into my wellness journey and practices because
Yeah.
it was, I mean, that long story. But and I sent Dwayne out that day and he did go right out to and I sent a list of herbs and all of it to get me immediately
Yeah.
because I was, I will take the holistic approach before I will take um a more Western medicine approach.
Yeah. Mhm. No, I mean, I had a couple of during the pandemic. Terrifying.
Terrifying, I was, and I felt for my mom too in that moment
Mhm.
because I witnessed many of her panic attacks.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I felt for her
Yeah.
and what she went through.
Yeah.
I know I mean, we did a little laughing, but I listen, I have a sense of humor just about every tragedy in my life. I can, it's a little levity we need sometimes.
Yes. We will do that. I will laugh at a tragedy.
Laughter
Even my own.
here. Yeah, even my own I'm laughing now. I mean, laughter
I
is
hope I can
healing for
laugh.
the soul. It is.
Yeah, I
It is
mean
medicine for me. I mean,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. So you started on your journey, digging deeper. And again, let's just also say this is all very recent. Like we both experienced a succession of like crazy things in a very in a decade.
yeah.
I've only been back on the East Coast for 14 years.
Wow. Thank God.
So it's been like a succession of, little terrors, as I call them. So, so you're dealing with your mom, you're acting by now, we're like working on ashes. uh, You're caretaking for your father-in-law, going
Yeah.
over to his apartment, like
And taking him to appointments and
taking him to
doctors
appointment,
and my mom, we were caretaking for my mom
and your
and
3 high functioning children.
high functioning kids. Yes.
Yeah. And so then while all of that's happening, other things are happening in your household as well. Right. And so do you wanna talk just a little bit about that?
Sure.
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, I did put it in the show notes though, so you kinda do have to.
Yeah. You've already
But
put it in the
only
show
what
notes.
you but no, in all seriousness, only what you want to say.
I guess what I will say, and I'm just not really let spirit lead me
Yeah.
on this
Yeah.
and guide me through this.
Yeah.
Um, because whatever I do say,
Yeah.
it's meant for healing
Yes.
for not only for me, but
Yes.
for someone else
Sure.
who might be going through something similar.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, that's why we do the work we do, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? Here we are working on this play of about like unraveling truths. And again, I'm dealing with my own tragic relationship stuff
Yeah.
and my mom and all these things. And you're juggling a million things as well. So it was a rough time.
Yeah. And in the meantime, my marriage was unraveling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, um, and what I will say, you can't outrun grief and you can't outrun trauma. And when those things are present in your life and also in your partner's life,
Yeah.
uh, it's just a lot of healing work that needs to be done.
That's right.
And when you don't have that, that you don't have the opportunity or you don't take that because it's a choice,
That's right.
right? So let me say not having the opportunity,
Yeah.
but when you don't take the opportunity, when you don't choose to get on the path of your healing, to choose to understand uh, your own trauma, your own stories, um, then you're going to carry that right into your family.
Yeah.
And the story,
Yeah.
I am going to tell more of the story through art,
Yeah.
through my show, which
That's right. That's right.
Cherry Red Sweet Escape.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So, and I decided, to own more of my own truth and not to keep running from that.
Yeah.
And again, it's not about bashing anyone,
Yeah.
uh, but it is about healing and it is about truth telling.
Yeah, feel that because I was just talking with a new friend about this last week. Like I'm very much I will just say whatever is going on. I got lipstick on my thing. Lipstick on you?
Who put that there?
Girl, I just wish Fenty would fix their formula, Rihanna. I sure wish you could get somebody to fix that formula because this lipstick bleeds everywhere.
While you were
Anyway,
doing that, I thought I'd do a freshen up. So,
yeah. So I very much just say what I have to say and think about the consequences after. I'll write a whole book about it. I'll write a play about it. I'll write a movie about it and then get terrified afterwards and think about the repercussions of my truth on other people.
yeah.
Because even though it is our story, it's not bashing, but there is still a part, I think, even with the things that I've shared on the podcast, it's like there is a part of me that still wants to protect my
Mhm,
family,
mhm.
but on some level, there's just this other part of me where it's like, I just have to like share my side.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that way too. I mean, I think for me, getting to this point of starting to even share my journey,
Mm,
um, of, especially, the divorce,
mm,
uh, and, sort of, say we went from fairy tale, I say this, right? From fairy tale to Shakespearean tragedy, right? So maybe that'll be my book. I don't know. But, what I will say is that it's just really important, I think, for all of us to know that, listen, you have to do the work on yourself
mm.
first, because you sure can't change anyone else.
Yeah.
And you can't control anyone else. And you
Yeah.
can't control their behavior or what they do. Um, and so for me, I really tried to, and it was a tough divorce.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of loss. And like you said, 26 years is a long time. Um, and it was painful. And there's still, like you said, it's still fresh. It's still recent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been 2 years. So um, it's not easy. And it's still a tremendous loss and it's grief. I mean, I think I've been going through the stages of grief, but also stepping into new possibility as well. Uh, you know,
What's your how are you grieving now versus how you grieved in your 20s?
I definitely have more compassion for myself,
Mm,
much more grace
mm,
for myself. Uh, much more self-reflection, being more truthful and honest with myself, standing inside of myself, holding myself, sometimes even physically holding myself. I mean, one of these,
Yeah, you will do that. You will definitely hug yourself.
ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, I'm doing it now. Feels good. Um, yeah, no, really just hold myself and hold. And I also, the other thing that's really different is I don't stay in the story like I used to. I used to get stuck in the
We
story.
did used to get stuck. Oh my god. We would just go
Oh,
on
yeah. I don't,
for
yeah.
hours.
And give that story. And then you're reliving that same story, the energy that you
Girl.
give to it, what you're doing to your body, what you're doing to your brain
Oh
chemistry.
my
I
god.
mean, all of it.
Oh my god.
No.
And then we
I,
were just like, I'm tired of talking about this. Like, we're not gonna keep we're just I'm sick of this.
yeah.
I'm just done talking about it.
No, you can't just keep talking about it. And I think that's definitely something I've moved beyond uh, that. And, my mom used to always say to me too, Sherry, it's not about being right. It's about having peace of mind.
Yeah.
So my peace, honey, don't come up in here.
Don't you and your don't bring me no bad news. Don't
Don't
about
bring
bring
me,
no bad news.
you can bring me some bad news if you want, but don't come in here acting up.
Don't come rap tapping on my
Don't come
door.
rap, as you say, don't come rap,
Don't come
tap, tapping on
tapping on
my
my door.
door with crazy.
Come rap.
No, the only drama now that I want, I think there was a time when I was younger, there
Yeah.
is like, you're a little addicted to drama in terms of, I think being a child of an alcoholic,
Well, I was gonna say it's just familiar. It's like
it was
we're used to
familiar. And what I
high
mean,
drama and intrigue
right.
and how
And
that's also Hollywood.
correct. And I think I thought of it in terms of adventure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You always had a
Adventure.
story to tell,
I always had a story to
some
tell,
crazy story.
some crazy story, something happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because you know what? Because you go along and you're waiting for the landmine.
Yeah.
You're waiting for the explosion.
Yeah.
And um, it's like the pain body, right? We get addicted to the pain body. We get addicted to
Yeah, for sure.
trauma. We get addicted to the trauma,
Absolutely.
right? And so for me, that is definitely something I have worked on and changing that pattern of behavior. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
I will say I'm proud of that.
was gonna say, great job.
Thank you.
Great job.
You too, girl.
Thanks. Yeah, we're out of here. We're doing good stuff. So, besides like your hugging yourself, your candles, your journaling, what other emotional like modalities are you working on right now?
Well, prayer is first and foremost. I mean,
Yes.
definitely my
Yes.
prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, my faith and my prayer. But yoga practice,
Mhm.
meditation,
Mhm.
um, walking, exercise, releasing, some great release rituals, uh, self-care practices.
Mhm.
And not for me, just self-care of going to get your nails done and
Right.
all that.
Right.
Really, for me, self-care is really about, and that's a nice thing to do for yourself too. I do enjoy that, or when you get a day in the salon with the
Mhm.
girl and all that, or
Mhm.
we go out to a great dinner.
Mhm.
Massages, massages, all that is good. But you know what? I'm learning to also give myself my own massages,
Mhm.
right? Um, as part of my own self-care, mirror work.
Oh yes.
I do a great deal of mirror work.
Yeah.
Uh, the journaling and self-reflection,
Yeah.
affirmations. I have affirmations all over my
You sure
house.
do. You're also good at talking yourself off the ledge. Now, Sherry, you know such and such and such and such. You're good at that too.
I do a lot of talking to myself.
You
Yeah.
do. You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talk myself off the ledge. I talk myself from the brink.
Yes.
But I also, you know what? There is something really transformative about the brink
Yes. It's a
because
portal.
it's
That's what I've been saying since
it's the
starting this partner.
portal.
Brief
Yeah,
is
it's
the portal.
the brain is the portal
Mhm.
because it's not really until I'm on the brink that's where the transformation really does happen. Excuse me. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. And so anyway, I mean, I think for me, I have this series with my clients, it's stepping out of the stretch zone.
Yeah.
I do a lot of trainings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and stepping out of the stretch zone, I started that series because I said, Sherry, you actually lived your life mostly in the stretch zone,
Mhm. Yeah.
uh, playing outside of my comfort zone in so many respects, because
Yes.
my natural inclination is to, I really don't like taking a bite of the apple at one bite at a time. I'd rather swallow it whole. And that's not always to my benefit either.
Yeah.
Process. Yet I'm an actor and I do enjoy process,
Yeah.
right? But there's also something about, for me, going on the diving board and just jumping
Yeah. Yeah.
into the deep end and say, uh-oh,
Agree.
I'm in, I'm right. This is why we're so much. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Let me know
Oh,
this
oh my God.
later.
I'm in water well over my
Yeah.
head.
Of course.
Okay, I gotta learn how to swim. I'm gonna swim. That's it. Because sometimes that's the only way that I'll take action and I'll,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love being that way.
I do too. I
Yeah.
do too. You're my soul sister in that way
Yeah. Of
too.
course.
Well, we have
Be
so much synergy
any
shared.
other way. I know. I wouldn't want it to be any other way. So now you're doing this work with other people. So, you're taking people in the stretch zone and then you have drama size. How did that come about?
Ooh, that started off drama size. So drama size is you know what it is, but I'll just, for your listeners, and hopefully they're still with us.
They are. Even if they're
Yes.
listening in the car. I mean, it's fine.
Yes. Um, so drama science is really about pulling from the actor's toolkit, because acting is the study of human behavior. I've learned so much about myself, which helps me to learn about other people, which helps me to learn about the world. And then infusing wellness practices and tools and principles um, in it in other creative modalities. And so that's drama size. And my background is arts education. Um, I believe in the arts. I think wellness is art, art is wellness. And doing these trainings, and I've seen how people, and you've seen it too, Zoe, with the work we've done with ashes and other work that we've done, it really helps to transform people's lives,
Yeah.
and in a space where it's without judgment.
Yeah.
Right? In a space that you can create where you can give yourself permission to really just look at what is,
Yeah.
and encourage people just to be better observers of their own life and of themselves, and to start understanding why you make the choices you made, starting to tap into excavating more truth, like peeling back those an onion, right? Peeling back all the layers like we do as we study a character. So I really just try to offer people to be their own main character in their own life, because they really are. This is your life and your stage. It's
And
your life.
what else are you working on? Or
Oh, there's Dreamers Unite with Sherri Pullum. Thank you for mentioning that. There's my little shameless plug.
Mhm.
Uh, the talk show for dreamers, which you've been on and you're going to come back. I
Mhm.
know we're starting a new season.
Yeah.
That's really all about people just sharing their stories, right? And the good, the bad, the indifferent. How do we manifest those dreams? What's the journey to get there? And then also keeping it fun. We play dream games, and there's a question and answer where people could actually call in and ask. Now I'm doing a podcast in the studio podcast, which is really mostly about talking all things entertainment. So all aspects, to me, everything is entertainment,
Mm.
right? Because it's all about storytelling, everything, no matter, you know, hospitals are have an aspect of entertainment. Uh, Churches, I mean, there's this aspect of storytelling in it. So, uh, letting people know too how entertainment really, it can have a seedy side, but it also has a very powerful side, that can be very, very, use it for social justice work that you and I have done, and used it in that way. I think that's important. Advocacy work, um, for especially for, for my company, doing documentaries for Black and Brown people, stories for women and Black and Brown people, people of color, stories, marginalized people, stories that won't get told because our stories are important and valuable. All stories are, but some stories will not see the light of day unless we tell them.
Yeah.
And if we don't tell our own stories, sometimes they won't get told in a meaningful way,
Absolutely.
or in the way that is important for
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'm I'm still acting. And of course I mentioned Cherry Red Sweet Escape. So I am excited. We do plan on filming it this year.
Okay.
And um I'm really grateful for the beautiful team that I have. And Zoe, you worked on Cherry Red Sweet Escape with me, which is really about a mom who is escaping into her diva alter ego. And now we learn more about why she's escaping.
Right.
She's a mom and a wife escaping, and she's escaping from her trauma. And so people will get a chance to see how she creates this alter ego and see how she learns from that. So there's also a bit of fantasy in it too, as well as some social justice talk, um, and just human humanity, and relatable stories and empowering stories. And to empower women. So, um, yeah.
Yeah. And how can people support your work, support you?
Well, they can follow me on IG. They can,
What's your Instagram?
at Pullum Productions and at Dreamers Unite Show. They can also please follow, Dreamers Unite with Sherri Pullum. Um, you can go on YouTube and subscribe, comment. So when you watch a video or you watch something, we know how important it is
Yeah.
to just make some comments, to put a
Yes.
thumbs up, to hit that. My website is pullumproductions.com. So yeah. So if there's something you want to approach me with, whether it's doing some speaking in your community or some healing work through Dramatize or, coming on as a guest to Dreamers Unite, or, I also produce other television shows, series. I'm stepping into that space. You and I are doing that together too, Zoe. Look at her face.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, she is.
What
I
you
know
got?
she's looking
Netflix?
around. She's looking around. Yeah. No, but I have some other projects.
Yeah.
We got some other things we're gonna be doing together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure that all those get in the show notes.
Yeah, no, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Really, just send me some love is
Yeah.
what I say. Just energetically think of me sometimes, and just, send some energetic love my way.
Yeah.
I could always use that.
I love that. So as we come to a close, I always ask, what are you grieving and what are you grateful for today?
And in the terms of the what am I grieving, is that in terms of sort of releasing and letting go? Or it can be
If there's
like,
something you're grieving, you can share it. If there's nothing you're grieving, then there's no. I actually had somebody on. I knew he wasn't going to have anything that he was grieving, and he was like, "Yeah, I really don't have anything I'm grieving right now." And I was like, "That's fantastic."
um, you know what? I won't say that because I will definitely be honest and say, I am still grieving through the process of going through this process of loss of my marriage. I'm still grieving that. I'm still not moved, uh, 100%, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah.
I'm still, because I'm still, healing, and my kids are still healing, you know. I pray my ex is healing, because, you know, at the end of the day, we're all family. And it matters, even though we're not the same structurally type of family unit, but it matters to be a healed
Yeah.
uh, unit.
Yeah. For sure.
It matters. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I would say that. And I would say, what am I grateful for? Girl, how much time do you have?
And we used to sing that song too. Grateful, grateful.
I'll spare people my singing, but
Well, I just
yes,
did it and I can't even
I
sing. At least
love
you
it.
can
I
actually
love
hear
it.
it too.
Yeah. Well, I tried sometimes. Um, you know what? I'm grateful for breath. I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for my family, my children. I'm grateful for my sisterhood. Zoe, you know how grateful I am for you, and just I'm grateful for transformation. I'm grateful for all the hard lessons that I've had to learn. I'm grateful, for my family, my parents who taught me so much. I'm grateful for ancestors. Um, I'm grateful that I'm on the brink. And I'm grateful that I could literally just be present with you in this moment and show up as myself.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. This is fantastic. So good.
Thank you, Zoe.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Because you're fabulous.
Yes, I agree.
You are.
Thank you.
You make any guest feel right at home.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Y'all are
Yes.
easy to love.
Well, and you are too. You are too.
And I know people are going to get so many gems from this conversation. So, yeah, in all seriousness, just thank you for coming forward, for telling your story. We look forward to you sharing even more through your artistic projects that are coming down the pike. And yeah, I know people are going to just be deeply inspired. So, next week on Come to the Brink, we continue exploring courageous journeys through grief and loss and healing. We are going to be talking with Becky Crowell. And Becky and I are going to be pondering grief as a portal and unconditional love, art and exploration, and all of those things. So, thank you all again for listening. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all the things. As you know, episodes drop every Tuesday at 7:11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with some bonus episodes dropping on Fridays. And of course, you find us, wherever you find your podcasts, you'll find us. So if anything moved you today from this conversation, please reach out. Let's talk about it, because remember, none of us should be standing on the brink alone. I am Zoe Flowers, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.